In the heart of Africa, the mystery of the giant belly. Deep in the jungles of Africa, the first light of day was shining like gold through the trees, making the land shine like gold. At the foot of the great Mount Anansi, the entire village had gathered, watching with anxiety and curiosity a young woman named Mumbi. Mumbi's belly had grown enormously, as if it were not only 9 months pregnant, but also a 1,000-years-old secret. This extraordinary situation inspired not only fear, but also awe in the village, because what was inside Mumbi's belly was unknown. Mumbi's past. Mumbi was one of the most beautiful women in the village. She had a long, curvy body, and her every step was so graceful that it caused flowers and bloom. Her black eyes seemed to hold deep and ancient knowledge. In her youth, hundreds of young men had sought her out, but Mumbi chose the man who would change her destiny. Kaboko, a powerful and dark man. Kaboko was known by strange rumors from other villages. The people said that she was a sorceress, that she controlled the forces of nature. Some claimed that she performed dark magic, while others claimed that she communicated with the spirits of nature. Mumbi's marriage to Kaboko raised questions in the minds of many in the village, but Mumbi fell in love with him and devoted her heart and soul to him. Mysterious pregnancy. One day, the village was filled with great joy when Mumbi realized that she was pregnant. However, this joy was replaced by fear when her belly started to grow rapidly. Her belly was growing much faster than normal as the months passed, as if there was more than a baby inside. When women came to her and asked what was going on, Mumbi remained uncomfortably silent. Some old women began to whisper that the growth in Mumbi's belly was not natural and that it could be a curse. Healers from other villages examined her belly, but no one admitted to seeing anything like it. But Kaboko said that everything was fine and looked at his wife with unwavering confidence. The calm before the storm in the village. As the months passed, Mumbi's belly grew to an extraordinary size. Kaboko began to move away from the village and spend more time there. At night, whispers could be heard in the deep forests where no one could hear, and it seemed as if the spirits of the trees were wandering around Kaboko. When she returned to the village, a strange darkness shone in her eyes. People began to wonder what Kaboko was doing, but no one dared to approach her. One day, the village elder, Nafsi, followed Kaboko. Nafsi was the wisest woman in the village who could speak to the spirits of the trees. That night, as she watched Kaboko in the depths of the forest, what she saw was one of the most frightening sights she had ever seen in her life. Kaboko was dancing around a large tree, speaking in a strange language. Shadows were dancing with her, but these shadows were not human. Nafsi understood that Kaboko was calling upon the dark forces of nature. What was her purpose? What was Mumbi's relationship to these dark forces whose belly had become so enormous? The truth emerges. As Mumbi's due date approached, tension in the village was rising. Everyone was waiting for the day she would give birth, but no one could guess what was inside such a large belly. Kaboko, as always, stood silently and strongly beside his wife. That night, the birth had begun. The women gathered around Mumbi, everyone holding their breath, but this birth was no ordinary birth. Mumbi's screams echoed through every corner of the village, as if the earth and sky were shaking. Finally, after long and painful hours, not only a baby emerged from Mumbi's womb, but a strange creature as well. This creature had the facial features of a human baby, but its body was covered in mystical symbols representing the dark forces of nature. Everyone in the village stepped back in shock. Old Nafsi bent over the creature and after a long silence spoke. "This is the fruit of Kaboko's pact with the dark spirits. This child is a combination of the dark and light forces of nature. Mumbi, you as a mother must protect this child, for he can be both our savior and our destroyer." Kaboko's betrayal and the power of love. Mumbi was startled by Nafsi's words. She turned to Kaboko and saw in his eyes the betrayal she had committed against him. Kaboko had used his love for Mumbi to bring the dark forces of nature into the world. Mumbi's pregnancy was more than just being a mother. It had disrupted the balance between humanity and the forces of nature. Kaboko approached Mumbi silently. "This was your destiny too, Mumbi. Our love is no ordinary love. This child will change the fate of not only us, but all of this land." But Mumbi refused to accept this dark truth. That night, Mumbi took her child and fled the village. The only thing that could resist Kaboko's dark forces was a mother's pure love. In her mother's arms, the child calmed down and the mystical symbols slowly began to fade. Mumbi made her way beyond the village, deeper into the forest. Nature was guiding her. It seemed that Kaboko had misused the forces of nature, but Mumbi would find a way to balance them. The secret he carried in his womb was now in his arms as a child, but his fate was still uncertain. The end, the dance of darkness and light years passed, and Mumbi's son grew up deep in the forest. This child, neither fully human nor fully a spirit of nature, continued to live in the ancient lands of Africa, preserving his mystery. Kaboko, however, disappeared. The dark forces had called him back to make him pay for his betrayal. The villagers waited for Mumbi and her son to return, but they never returned. Some said they were lost in the forest. Others said they lived with the spirits of nature. But one thing was certain: Mumbi's love had overcome Kaboko's betrayal. The mystical forests of Africa continued to whisper this story every morning with the rising sun. And this story told of how powerful the forces of nature were and how much stronger love was.